Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Migrating to SQL Server, Removing Expensive Technical Debt. My name is Joey D'Antoni. I'm Principal Consultant at Denny Cherry & Associates Consulting. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. I've been working with SQL Server and other databases whose vendors we shall not name, but like to audit you frequently for not purchasing enough licensing for the last 20 years. So I've done a lot of work in both spaces, and I've worked with a lot of other data platforms in terms of open source and Hadoop and big data and some MySQL and Postgres stuff. So I'd just like to take a quick survey of the room. How many of you are DBAs? Okay, that's probably 70% of the room. Sysadmins? Okay, cool. That's pretty much covers the rest of the room. Devs, anyone? Okay, we have one. We'll be nice to you. Actually, we want to reduce the amount of work you have to do. So why do we want to talk about this topic? And the elephant in the room that I'm not going to name is licensing, right? So licensing older versions of software is expensive, whether it's Microsoft software or other vendors. In particular, though, other database vendors, Oracle, we'll name them because we're going to show them in a demo later, have really aggressive licensing policies. Their software is really expensive, and one of the big differences between Oracle and SQL Server is that with SQL Server, if you buy Enterprise Edition, you get all the features that are in the product. And now more so, if you buy Standard Edition, you get most of the features that are in the product. Where with Oracle, those are cost options, and they like to audit you for using them, and you can accidentally use them, and there are a lot of things. And it's just more expensive. So SQL Server Enterprise Edition costs about $6,800 a processor, US if you're buying it. Oracle Enterprise Edition with no options costs about $45,000 a processor. So there's a pretty big difference in cost, and support is off that retail number. So even when they discount a lot, you're still having to pay 23% support cost on that big giant number. So there's a lot of pressure from CIOs to bring that number down, because frequently that's one of the largest sources of spend in any IT organization is database support cost. And yeah, you get patches and things like that for it, but you're not getting a whole lot of value add. So the other reasons why we do this are more flexibility and performance. So one of the really cool things that Microsoft did, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, is if you're not familiar with this, with SQL Server Service Pack 1 for SQL Server 2016, so if you're on any version of SQL Server going forward from there, which would be anything beyond SP1 in 2016 or SQL Server 2017, all of the programmability features that are in Enterprise Edition are in Standard Edition all the way down to Express Edition. Express Edition is free. Of course, it has limits like no scheduler or SQL agent. And it doesn't have, Express Edition has a size limit. So Standard Edition can do a lot now. So compression, partitioning, column store indexes, which if you're not intimately familiar with databases, is a feature that gives you the ability to do a lot of analytics quickly. Also gives you great compression. So it's a really good data warehouse feature. So all these things kind of combine together to offer us a lot more flexibility and performance. So something I've been pushing a lot of my customers to do is if they don't buy software assurance traditionally on their Standard Edition licenses, it's worth it to buy new licenses and maybe software assurance them for SQL Server 2016, SP1, because they get all that features. So what don't you get in Standard Edition? It's all the scalability stuff. So you can only have a 2-node availability group. You can't read the secondaries. If you're familiar with Resource Governor, which is a feature that tends to be used in multi-tenant environments to control performance, that's not available to you. So, and there's a few other things like transparent data encryption, but for the most part, anything that you code in T-SQL is available to you on all editions of SQL Server. That's kind of the goal. So there's a lot of benefit to being on newer versions. What that means is that's kind of a competitive advantage for SQL Server over other database platforms, because on the Standard Edition, which is pretty cheap, you get all of these features. And likewise, the other benefit Microsoft has is your development environments or in QA environments, you don't have to license. Not all vendors do that. And then finally, bad vendor relationships. So I've been through a few license negotiations with large database vendors in my day. I used to work at Comcast Cable. We kind of had a lot of databases there, as you might imagine. Microsoft is pretty friendly to work with, but even then, the SQL 2012 core-based licensing conversion was painful, but not nearly as painful as dealing with our other major vendor. Just the way their sales cycle goes, if you don't increase your spend every 3 years, they tend to get pretty aggressive with you. try to push stuff, whether it's cloud credits or appliances down your throat, and they're just a tough vendor to work with, and I think that's finally turned off a lot of people. So what we're going to talk about in this session is understanding application migration patterns. So I just told you the reasons why you should consider moving your data platform, and now I'm going to tell you this is one of the hardest projects to do in IT. It was something I was asked to do on a wide scale at Comcast, and we kind of broke this down into a bunch of different areas. And we're going to talk about some tooling at the end. I'm going to show a brief demo of the SQL Server Migration Assistant, which is a tool that used to be not so good. Now, Microsoft put a lot of investment into it in the last couple of years, and it works pretty well, and it gives you some nice project assessment. That includes, Microsoft gives you an estimated level of effort and number of hours that it's going to take to redesign, to re-platform the application code. Because let's face it, if we just have a database that has 10 tables and no stored procedures, then it's very easy to migrate that between data platforms. You may have to change some indexing or something, but that's pretty straightforward. You map data types, it's easy. Where we have problems is the procedural code. And for example, there are things that just don't translate. Like Oracle has something called packages, and packages are made up of many stored procedures. SQL Server has nothing like that, so you have to do some sort of mapping, and that's built into the tool. And then we'll talk about how to be successful in your migration efforts. So let's talk about performing discovery. Your first task is in any migration effort is to do a little bit of detective work. And this kind of applies if you're a consultant or if you're working in a company. You need to be able to understand the shortest path to the migration. And one of the first steps is to find out the application owner, so who the business owner of your application is, and then find out if the application is built by a software developer or in-house developer. So from there, you can dive a little bit deeper and do further discovery. So we're going to break this down to a few different structures and types of applications and how we handle those in a different manner. So the first questions that you want to ask are to try to identify anything that might be easily migrated by a software vendor tool. So if we're dealing with a third-party application, there are some third-party applications that are really easy to migrate. SAP, for example, as much as it can be painful to deal with and install, has a pretty good grasp on migrating data platforms because they've done it a lot for a lot of customers, so there's good tooling in place to do it. And those can be the easiest applications to migrate, because if the vendor has a tool that will migrate their schema from an Oracle schema to a SQL Server schema, or from MySQL to an Oracle schema, or to a SQL Server schema, that's quite easy. In-house applications may be somewhere between a small amount or a whole lot harder, depending on the level of complexity of the application. Another challenge that you have to deal with when you're trying to do a re-platform of a database application is that applications that were built off the shelf but had a high degree of customization to them. Finally, there are some applications you're not going to be able to migrate. You're probably not going to be able to migrate Oracle Financials to SQL Server. That's not something that's ever going to happen. And sometimes you just have to just take a pass on that one. I have been through some scenarios where, like, and this is something I don't think you can do anymore, but you used to be able to rent Oracle licenses from Azure. And I had a customer who wanted to eliminate all the Oracle from their software, their environment, because they had a bad relationship with the rep themselves. So what they did was they moved their Oracle financial stuff into Azure, renting the licenses, which allowed them to terminate their agreement with Oracle Corporation. Unfortunately, you can't do that any longer, but it was something that was available for a couple of years. So custom applications, these are very varied in complexity, and part of this is going to depend on who owns the application in your environment, and if they're still there, and how complex it is. So you may run into some applications that you can simply run through the migration assistant, and others where you need months of development time to migrate the application. There's no simple formula for doing this. It's more of an art than a science. I can tell you about a really, really horrible project I did where we were trying to do a migration. We were saying, oh, there's 40 stored procedures. It's not going to be that bad. 2 months later, we were still neck deep in application code. You really have to have a deep understanding of what's going on in the app and how complex it is. At certain points, there are some things you may just have to rewrite from a code perspective. And that's probably the biggest challenge. Some procedures are going to be really easy to migrate. So some things are just going to be doing selects and inserts and updates, and that kind of logic is very easy to replicate. But when you have some, like we had in the case I'm talking about, we had some apps that were, or some serve procedures that were doing some very unique Oracle function calls that we had to completely recreate the logic. And I believe we spent 2 or 3 days on a single procedure trying to get the logic right. And then we had to tune performance and all that stuff. So it's a big challenge, and this is one of the hardest parts. Some procedures are going to be easy to migrate. Generally, the more packages and procedures you have, the higher the complexity, but that's not always the case because you need to kind of delve into them. And this is probably, when you're dealing with an application like this is where you need to spend a lot of time on that research phase. You need to take a deep dive into the code and see how complex it is. If you have a developer who helped build your application, this is when it's going to be important. Testing for this is also going to need to be extensive because it's not just going to be, does this work? Are we doing functional testing? You're going to need to be able to test to say, hey, is this application going to perform? Oracle and SQL Server have very different indexing strategies in a lot of cases. Oracle tends to be more efficient at doing full table scans, not so much SQL Server. So you're going to have to plan for that. So that's really a key step to your success in this process. So as mentioned above, one of the most challenging patterns you'll run into is enterprise applications. Well, some of these applications, think SAP or similar apps, will have an easy way to migrate to SQL Server. You need to understand the ecosystems of an application that are associated with a given app. Some things to look for are business intelligence applications like Power BI, Tableau, or my 2 favorites, Excel and Access. One of the ways you can do this, and this is a little bit of a detective trick, is just to look in the source database platform and look at what programs people are connecting from. Because that's something that's not necessarily going to be on your radar, right? And I run into this in a lot of organizations where they have a data warehouse and they have reporting databases, but at the same time, people want to report off the real-time data, and they haven't built any sort of real-time streaming analytics system, and they're just querying the live database. That's the OLTP system. Fairly common, and it's really hard to track unless you get inside the database and say, hey, what are we hitting? Most of these applications will migrate quickly and cleanly, where you've just added on to an app. But these frequently have high business exposure because who's connecting Excel to the live database is usually an executive who really cares a lot about the project. So these are the kind of applications you want to be really careful with migrating since they're executive facing. And if you're doing a large scale migration project and an exec can't get a report, that's definitely going to affect the perception of your migration project. So you want to be really careful with this. So I previewed a couple of these, but we'll go into detail. And we're going to walk through some case studies of a few real-world customer scenarios for migration. These are some of the different types of projects you might encounter in the wild or in your organization if you're trying to do a platform migration. So this was our first pattern, and I talked a little bit about this. They had an architect. This vendor had an architect. So it was a software vendor who built a substantial code base in Oracle. And we had a nickname for the architect that I can't share at a conference because it's not really polite. It ended with you, Dan. Dan was never wrong. Dan knew everything, and Dan was sure his code was fantastic. So on the surface, their code looked really simple. It consisted of one package. It had 42 procedures, and there was a lot of complexity built into the procedures, and lots of complex, and this was the killer part, there was lots of complex dynamic SQL built into their Java code. So we had 3 and 4 part strings of dynamic SQL built into their Java code. On top of that, there was plenty of complexity in their main package that needed to be unlocked. So in assessing this project, one of the mistakes, and this was on me, I made it, was not unraveling the nest of code before the project started. We just kind of looked at the data and said, yeah, we think we can do this in this reasonable amount of time. We looked at some of the code, and it looked okay. One of the other challenges we had was the developer made wide use of arrays passed into stored procedures and using custom binary data types. So this was something we had to effectively completely kind of rebuild ourselves in SQL Server using table-defined parameters. And the custom binary data types, we really had to just work around and store those as binary. This was really rough. So this type of project will be the hardest one you can do. It will take you a lot of time, and you'll have to throw a lot of resources at the project. So my first bullet says, take an assessment and add 20% more time, and then add 20% more time to that. So when you think it's going to take 2 months, make it 4, because that's probably how long it's going to take. There's just a lot of the challenges. And one of the challenges we had on this was the customer's unfamiliarity with SQL Server. For example, we spent about a day or two because the customer insisted that we use implicit transactions, because Dan insisted that our transaction handling had to be just like Oracle's. And so this line no longer is in Books Online, unfortunately, because it was one of the greatest lines in Books Online that I've ever seen. And it said, most customers that have implicit transactions set to on have done it by mistake. Unfortunately, that's no longer there, but it's still not a really common pattern, and it doesn't work great in SQL Server, especially with .NET libraries. So basically what was happening was our parameters were getting lost because we were using implicit transactions in conjunction with the JDBC driver. So we were neck deep in profiler and extended event traces trying to figure out why we weren't getting these parameters passed in. And the teammate of mine and I, who's watching this, I think, hi Carrie, that were working on this, we're like, we can just fix this by enabling the default transaction settings. And finally, after like 2 days, we got through that. But that's a lot of waste of time because the customer didn't understand SQL Server. Customer also didn't understand indexing in SQL Server. So we had to explain why we were doing indexing. One of the conversions we ran into that was a little bit challenging, Oracle lets you have super wide indexes. So he had an index on a column that was 9,000 bytes wide. You can't do that in SQL Server. As a key, you have to use include columns. So we had to explain that. But it was basically to rewrite an application from scratch in SQL Server. So it wasn't like we were kind of starting with a base of code, but we were really just rewriting the app from scratch. And some application patterns need to be rewritten. So that's just, the good example of this was Oracle is a little bit more cursor friendly than SQL Server. If you're using cursors in SQL Server for anything other than your DBA task, you should stop. But they had a large number of cursor operations, and we knew those wouldn't scale well in SQL Server. So they were rewritten in set-based logic using some other code, but it takes you a while to think of that. You build a design pattern, but you still have to think about each one. You have to validate that the data is working the way you expect it to be. That takes a lot of time. So that was case study number 1 with the architect who shall not be named. Case study number 2, and this is the one I mentioned earlier, they had a bad licensing meeting, and the CEO and the CIO made an initiative to move completely off of Oracle. They were fed up enough with licensing that they said they wanted to go. So their in-house environment, or their environment consisted of in-house applications, several ISV applications, custom reporting, Oracle applications, and in this case, the customer had used SQL Server and had a DBA resource available, which was a great help because that can help you move things along. They had some custom developed reporting using some BI tools. So one of the simplest migrations you'll encounter is an Oracle application like financials or Fusion middleware. There's no option. And unfortunately, we can't do this anymore, so we can't rent a license from Microsoft like we used to. But you're just stuck, and this is the thing you just say no to. ISV vendor migrations, on the other hand, can go from simple to extremely complex, depending on the vendor and their level of support. So the first thing you always need to do with this is contact the software vendor. And I had a number of DBAs in the room. Your ISVs are always really good at giving you support, right? I know, I kid. There are good ISVs, there are bad ISVs. Any ISVs in the room watching on TV? Yeah, most of them, I'll say this about most of the ISVs I work with. They try really hard. They're overburdened. They tend to be small companies. They tend to have more knowledge in the business area of what they're writing code than where they're writing code. So if you're dealing with a small ISV, you may be the first customer who's doing a platform migration on their product. This is something, pro tip, get consulting gigs with the ISV if you're migrating their software. But lots of larger ISVs, I mentioned SAP, but I know a couple of other medium to large size environments do have platform migration tooling built in. A lot of times if they support both, most of the time if the vendor supports both platforms, they'll have some sort of migration path. It may be ugly and maybe extracting the data and reloading it in the form of an ETL process, but it tends not to be that bad. So the questions you want to ask are, do you support SQL Server? Do you have a migration utility? And is there a SQL Server version of your software? And then finally, you support SQL Server 2017, right? Because the ISVs are really good about supporting latest versions of software, as we all know. But these migrations can vary from simple to complex. Generally speaking, they don't require the level of effort that a custom application does, because you're not going to rewrite an application for your vendor. So just something to think about there. So case study number 2, same customer, custom reporting. These tend to be, if you're doing a large-scale project, these tend to be the first databases you're going to want to go after. So custom reporting applications like Tableau or Power BI are frequently used in business apps to report it on either a data warehouse or a line of business application. These queries, generally speaking, because they're more read-only systems, tend to be very low in complexity. And that's just because of their basic business rules. They tend to do aggregations and normal sales reporting. So it's not that bad. So you may need to rewrite some stored procedures, but it tends not to be that complicated. And this code has a tendency to be common across databases because you're calling, average sale price by product is going to be the same whether you're in Oracle or SQL Server. And because of the visibility of these systems in most environments, this can be a quick win in terms of getting a large-scale migration, as they typically require low effort to complete. And just always remember with these reporting systems, you want to see what everything hooks into them, and you want to make sure those hooks are okay, because this is another executive visibility thing. So this customer had a line, this is a slightly different case study. This customer had an in-house line of business system. It was written in Entity Framework. It was a customer-facing system that was key to the business, and the database was completely agnostic, and the migration was pretty straightforward. I was actually brought in to not do the migration. I was brought in here to teach the customer about SQL Server. So they migrated their application to SQL Server using Entity Framework, and they wanted to start until users started using the system, and then performance was kind of awful. So code base written in an Entity Framework. The database was completely agnostic. This is one of those cases where you have very few stored procedures. I think there were like 2 stored procedures in their application. So this was basically map the schema, move the data, go. Super straightforward until the user started using it. So when I was teaching, I started investigating their performance. The customer had 65 unused indexes. Not all solutions are clean and easy like this one. And I really told them they should redesign their application. But sometimes you do the best fix you can. And so what we did here was we suggested that they drop all of their non-clustered indexes because they weren't being used anyway, and they were slowing down their insert performance. And we replaced them with single column clustered indexes on their lookup keys, because that's all their queries simply ask for select star from table where key equals X. Easy way to index that, one column clustered indexes. Obviously, that's not going to scale over time as their data grows. That's not going to be really efficient, or if they want to do any sort of an aggregation. The longer term, rebuild application. Entity framework and those sorts of tools that build code generation, those tend to be really easy to migrate because they do keep all the business logic in the application code. But sadly, they tend to be terrible in terms of database performance. So this is a really common design pattern if the developer will choose like a code first pattern and not actually build their own schema and use stored procedures. Kind of common point of contention between DBAs and developers, the whole stored procedure versus dynamic SQL thing. And these tend to use a lot of dynamic SQL, which, like I say, makes it very easy to migrate data platforms. But man, it makes scaling your database really challenging. So it's not something I totally like to see. So a couple of other patterns. We have a middleware layer where all the database calls or exist in a middleware layer. This is a less common pattern. It's actually kind of a good application design pattern where you have a data access tier that your developers are calling. So you have all of your business logic in the program code. And what your database logic is still in the program code, but it's in basically one file that gets compiled, and all the calls are made through there. That makes migrating easy because you aren't chasing all the way down through the application code to fix any calls that are made. This does typically fall into the custom development category, but they vary in complexity. So the less logic that is in the database, the easier the migration is. So identifying your migration strategy. So let's talk about a couple of different ways you can do this. So you've learned about the types of applications and technologies. If you're simply migrating one application, go ahead and get started. One application to migrate data platforms isn't usually that big of a challenge. You're still going to need to make an assessment, but it's not nearly as complex as a large-scale application. So in a large-scale migration, if you're migrating most of the databases at your company or somebody else's company, you're going to need to classify your applications in the tiers. There are a couple of classifications that you need to do. So you want to base this on the type of application, the complexity of the application after you've made an assessment. So you don't want to do this tiering until you've made that assessment. And it's important to treat each not to go too project manager here, but it's important to treat each application as its own project because they are separate and distinct. Even though they might be part of a larger scale program to move to a new data platform, it's still always going to be a challenge. So these migrations are going to be way too complex to manage otherwise, and your project management staff should treat them that way. And you'll need to scale your project teams based on the number of applications and their complexity and the number of applications you want to move at once. But like I say, classify them into tiers. If it's just one, start coding. That's the kind of big challenge we have in this environment. So let's flip over to this machine, and let me hit my switch. So if you haven't used the SQL Server Migration Assistant for Oracle recently, or it's also available for other data platforms, it's not a tool that I would have recommended 5 years ago, but as part of some Microsoft efforts in recent years, they've put a lot of research, and this tool was rewritten by the product team a couple years ago, and it works. It's still a little weird to use, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. We'll connect to a new data source, and the first thing we do is define a project. And the instance I'm connecting to here is SQL 2016, so I'll change that. You do have the option, as you note, to connect to Azure SQL Database or Azure SQL Data Warehouse. And now I'm going to have the option to connect to Oracle. So I'll go ahead and do that. I have a local instance of XE running on this machine. By the way, the best part about this demo is getting the Oracle client installed. I hope everybody knows how fun that is. I did that for you guys. And what this is going to do is parse the schema. So ideally, I'm logging in and it's going to throw an error here on a specific procedure, but I'm logged in as the HR user who has DBA at the moment. Ideally, you want to log in as a user that just has rights on the schema that you're trying to connect to. And there's a set of privileges that you'll be prompted by. And here I can see my list of schemas. I'm going to choose this Apex schema. And now I'm going to say connect to SQL Server. And I'll go ahead and create a new database. By the way, the really exciting part of today's demo is I had installed vNext for another demo, and it turns out this isn't working with SQL Server 2019 yet. So that was kind of fun. But so here we have a target database, and we can define our global settings for the project. So we can say what editor we want, show line numbers. That's kind of boring stuff. So if we go here to Tools and say Project Settings, here we have our information about the project. We have a lot of options for how we do conversion, how we do schema to schema mapping. So you have the option if you want to, in SQL Server, have your schemas show up as schemas, or if you want DBO to own everything. That's really going to depend on the nature of what your Oracle schema side looks like. And we have all the options that are kind of different between the two platforms here. We have options from synchronization, so we can choose how we want to synchronize. So this is really a full-fledged tool that will do everything for us. We also have type mapping that we can standard define, and this is a good thing that you can do. So obviously, you might want to fix this because you don't want character to map to varchar max inherently, unless you're taking kickbacks from your storage vendor. But you want to kind of fix that. The big challenges you're going to run into with mapping types from Oracle are the number fields, because they use this number column that is not super well defined. So let's go ahead here and we'll select target. And I'll save and refresh my metadata. And that's going to run in the background. So what this is going to do while I'm waiting is this is going to generate a report that's going to give us the schema, and it's going to give us an estimate on how much time it's going to take our developers to go ahead and do something. And that does not. Oh, there we go. So this is going to take a little while to process. It'll process the schema, generate a report at the end, and it will show me how much time the tool thinks it's going to take for my developers to fix that. Is that a perfect estimate? No. It is definitely a good starting point. It's way better than it used to be. The best thing it will do is it converts your schema, it gets your data types mostly close, especially if you get the mapping right. But it's not something that's 100% replacement, because there's no way you can do that, but it's pretty close. So that's this tool. You can use it to convert the data. You can also convert the schema. You can also use it to migrate data. You can there's an assistant that will do an automatic migration flow. So if you have to do a near zero downtime cutover, you have that option. So what I'd like you to do is, if you have a schema you want to migrate and do some testing on, download the migration assistant. There's a migration assistant for each data platform, so it's not specific. So this is the Oracle one, but there's also one for Sybase. There's one for MySQL, and I think there's one for Postgres as well. The other thing I wanted to show you that's kind of fancy is something that's going to be new in SQL Server 2019. If you haven't seen this, so SQL Server 2019 yesterday got announced. It's CDP release, so it's not live yet. And this tool that I'm showing you is Azure Data Studio. If you haven't seen it, it used to be known as SQL Operations Studio. Microsoft really likes to change the names of things, so it got a name change called Azure Data Studio. And one of the interesting things Microsoft has done in SQL Server 2019 is reintroduce Polybase and rewritten Polybase. If you're not familiar with Polybase, it was kind of originally written to allow SQL Server to query Hadoop directly. So that was kind of the original use case. We could also use it to write and read from Azure Blob Storage using a Hadoop-ish interface. One of the things we've done in 2019 is this big data scale-out thing that you may have heard about. It runs in containers. It's really nifty and modern. That's cool. That has its uses. That's not what I want to talk about here. This is a new feature that allows me to create an external table directly to Oracle. So where this is really handy is if you have an application that you, for example, just need to get a table. And if you've ever set up replication between heterogeneous replication between two various RDMSs, it can be very painful. So what this does, and I'm not going to go through the demo all the way because we're a little bit short on time, but what this does, and let me go here so I can click next. From our SQL Server box, we'll go ahead and create a master key. And this is typical of any poly-based thing. This is just going to be to encrypt the credentials that we're using. We then define our Oracle connection. And once I tell that to go, it will prompt me to connect. It'll connect to Oracle. I'll define the tables I want to bring over. And SQL Server will be able to query those tables directly from within SQL Server. Is it going to be the most optimized, fast query ever? No. So it's not going to be something you're going to want to necessarily use in like a transactional system. But if you just need to bring in a set of tables from Oracle to do some reporting against for the customer type environment, it's very useful. I don't think this is going to do a full-scale migration, but it will get you started. So let's go back and see if we finish scanning that schema. We're still going. Well, so I promise you when this is done, you can do a create report and convert schema. So just to summarize a little bit, no two migrations are really the same. You never know what you're going to get when you're migrating data platforms. It's one of the hardest things you'll do in IT, and the only reason why we do it is databases can be really expensive. Custom applications will vary in degree of difficulty. Some of them will be easy to move, some of them will be very challenging. Your software vendor applications can be easy to move or they're not. That's pretty much a binary. So if the vendor has a tool to do a migration or they've done it before, it's easy. If they haven't, it's not. It's almost impossible. And finally, the most important takeaway, if you're doing one of these projects, is it's very, very important to understand everything that's connecting to the database. You may think it's just the application that's connecting, but there's probably some executive somewhere who's connecting Excel or Power BI to your database, and that's something you want to be aware of. So does anyone have any questions? Okay, no? Well, thank you, everyone, and have a good afternoon.